Hello and welcome back. Today we will be resuming the USA run from my perspective, but from your perspective, we're just continuing the USA run. I did a little bit of a poll, kind of what people wanted to see, what type of content they were interested in, and people really do seem interested in running up the USA pop. On one of the polls of what type of content you wanted guys to see, one of the most upvoted comments was just continue the USA run to 1 billion pops, and we didn't even continue it to 500,000 pops, which was the goal. And then when I did a little bit of a vote, the vote's only been up for a couple hours, but it's just absolutely crushing that people are okay seeing fewer videos come out, but they want to see kind of the USA run be taken to a little bit more of a pushed spot. And because, you know, we're trying to actually run up the pop, we're not going to slow down on the construction. If we were just trying to get to a later period of time in the game, we would slow down on the construction, right? But if we're trying to de-peasant as quickly as possible, we need to keep up in construction. So this is what we're going to do, and the game's going to go really slow. The game's going to go big slow. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is so ungodly slow. Just kidding. We can't. Oh. Can we do this? God, it's going to take us forever. Alright, so we're going to open up Sokoto's market so we can try to start trading with them and hopefully try and pull them into the customs union. They do have closed borders, so it's not going to be that useful because we won't be able to siphon off pops, but we will be able to feed them our goods. Force feed them our goods. Okay, Sokoto just backed down, so we're going to do the same with Siam, and Siam just accepts the demands as well, so that's, you know, pretty nice for us, I suppose. So we're going to bankroll both Sokoto and Siam and try and pull them into the customs union. I was wondering what was going on. There's like this strangeness why they were just backing down, and I forgot in this run we have the Dear Florida Men, the army of the Florida Men, which strikes terror into the hearts of our enemies, and of course is the reason why they back down without a fight. We're massaging the queue a little bit in the Amazons. We really want to trigger the exploiting the Amazons journal entries in order to give these areas much more migration attraction as well as less of a construction malice, and so we're going to be pushing those quite a bit here as we can. And so this is going to involve pushing the rubber plantations, the logging camps levels up, and we're also adding some construction both in Para and Monte Grasso. Alright everyone, different day, same shirt. We are back here. We are trying to make the run work. I thought the run was dead, so I recorded the first part of this several days ago, and we'll keep it in, because I thought that, look, this is just way too slow, right? And it turns out, if we delete the majority of our trade routes, we can actually get the game to function at a somewhat playable level. We, of course, don't like deleting all of our trade routes. Look, it even lags when we try and bring them up. But we have, if we kind of eliminate the filters, or sort by all, or by country, if we can take a look, and we can see that we have 356 routes. If we delete these routes down to just kind of a very bare-bonesy level, this game will actually be playable again. It'll be still somewhat slow, but it'll be enough to keep the run going, because I know you guys, especially the regulars, are interested in seeing us try and run this number up, and so we're going to try and do that, and so we will be back once we've deleted a majority of the trade routes we have kind of put in, and the way we are going to be deleting is we are primarily going to be sorting, not by linking any sort of group, but we are going to be sorting by, reverse sorting by units. So anything that, you know, there's basically no units that are we're only going to keep our things that have the absolute most units flowing through. So we're only going to keep these end bottom trade routes, and we're going to delete maybe 300 or so trade routes, look to keep 50, and then look to maybe insert back in some trade routes, in particular with some of these guys that we are trying to make sure that we can try and pull them into our customs union. So all these boyos we're bankrolling off to the right, we will probably reinsert a bunch of trade routes on them, and so maybe we'll even delete all the trade routes and just kind of start from fresh, but this is what we're going to be doing here. Make things work. Alright, so we've deleted down to 125 routes. We haven't done kind of, you know, overview of who exactly we're exporting to, this type of stuff, but I just wanted to show, look how much faster this is going. This is going way, way, way faster. This is way more manageable. We're still going to delete down a few more routes, but I just wanted to show kind of the degree of improvement we're experiencing just by deleting, you know, 200-ish routes. So it appears that pulling Dynam into the customs union will be unnecessary because Great Britain decided, hey, we're going to go after them, and we can sway them to just become subject, just easy peasy lemon squeezy. We can't sway for any states, so that's fine enough. We'll sway for become protectorate, and then we will look to protect them, or just have the UK back down. We would be super fine if the UK backs down. I think that we will move these guys to our home HQ here, in preparation to defend. I think the South America army we will mobilize, and then what we will do is we're going to move these guys over, because we have other armies occupied. We're going to move these guys over to Dainam, who accepted our assistance, and then we are going to raise up our China army and all the conscripts there, and these guys should be more than sufficient to defend Dainam against any sort of landing the UK is wanting to put in. Now, we also have a ton of fleets. It feels so nice coming back to this run where we have so much stuff organized and all like meticulously like laid out and stuff. We have a ton of fleets. Now, these are helping us with this business, which of course we've got Norland for free for nothing. Good dealsies for us. And once we finish that, we're going to bring the Navy over, but we are going to take a whole bunch of these guys who are just convoy raiding, and we're just going to get ready to put them on over here. And I think that they'll be able to do work with just the torpedo boats. We'll see if they can do work in the English Channel. This will be the kind of first test of theirs. We're only going to bring up the 10 stacks pluses, but these are all of these like squiddy red guys we have are just entirely torpedo boats. They're here to only raid, you know, kind of routes. And then we have these guys to defend the routes of our own. And so if we see them, you know, going after our convoys in any spot, which we'll try and keep an eye on, we'll have these guys kind of flash around and look to defend those. So I think we're going to move these guys to around Panama, because I think this is going to be the best, the most dynamic place to which to respond to any sort of naval thing that is going on, and then we will get ready for the play. Hopefully we can manage to, you know, finish this up relatively quickly. I don't think that Sweden became a subject of Spain, or Scandinavia rather, became a subject of Spain. If they did, that would be unfortunate for us, but it's just an obligation, so all we have to do is enforce over here, which is why we're trying to do a landing over here on this army. And so, yeah, that's also going to kill all of our trade routes with... ooh, looks like this isn't even that profitable, but it's decreasing in size. But we can get bigger routes if we just let the other routes run the things. So we're just going to delete this with France, actually. And I think that that'll help these other routes from like guys like Bengal and stuff to run a little bit bigger, maybe. Maybe that was a little bit of a mistake, but we're trying to prune routes more than anything now, and look to pull guys into our customs union. That's why we're bankrolling all of these gentlemen. And of course, we do not need to bankroll Dainam anymore because they're going to become our subject here. We don't have an obligation on them, I don't think. Otherwise, we would invite them to the customs union, but just checking through these really quick, looking to get a little bit more migration and such. So the UK, they just backed down without a fight. They didn't want the heat, so we, of course, got a Dainam basically for free. We're still handling the Scandinavia thing, and as far as tech has gone, we finished a little while back. We finished Zeppelins, which was really big. We're going to go for trench works, just to make people quake in fear more of the Florida men. We don't really need to prioritize anything really too hard, and while production tech would give us kind of the biggest advantage out of stuff, we've been having trouble finding spots to nat spread stuff, and so we're kind of want to pull off of them a little bit. I think after this, we're probably going to make a dive into some tier 4 tech, looking to just push electrical gen into steam and this type of thing, and go ahead of time as best we can, and kind of just ignore a whole bunch of tier 3 techs. But for now, we're going to do the exact kind of thing. We're going to pick up this pretty useful tier 4 military tech. We maybe want to pick up sea lane strategies to push, start using scout cruisers to push everyone's prestige down, or to push our prestige so high, which can help to decay everyone down. You know, this is something we are kind of focused on, like just the UK kind of has a reasonable looking prestige, and after that, look at this, like it just collapses the prestige of everyone else. And this is the calculation which determines if people are going to be minor, major, this type of thing. And so we could look to do that largely through Navy. And then there's not really a good option in society tech other than maybe the additional company in terms of the tier 4 techs, which I guess we could go for that. We could even do that into macro, which would be a little bit wild, but I think we'd rather do like something into compression ignition. So that's kind of what we're doing in terms of the technologies and this sort of thing. And it's also just going to be a whole bunch of putting down revs, at least for now. Around here, or native uprisings rather, as they come, because quite a lot are going to come. We probably shouldn't have stood down our army. We should stood down kind of one of our bigger armies, which I think was a little bit of a mistake, but we're just going to land and try and enforce on over here and not bother landing Spain because we don't have war goals on Spain, but we are fighting Spain. Very importantly, are fighting Spain in this war, and we have to fight it out because they have returned Norland, so we can't just capitulate our way out if we want to keep what we basically just stole. Yeah. Alright, we hit a little bit of a critical point where we get to be spooky. So currently, Austria, they are big like us, they're in our customs union, which is tremendously nice. But siding with them against this huge revolt is Russia. Russia, of course, well, we don't really care about Russia. The point is that we can now ask them to become a subject. Again, this is off the sheer terror. That is the Florida Man Army, because we have, 2,500 conscripts. They're like, wow, we just auto-win every fight, which, to be fair, we will win every fight, because we actually can't afford to raise those conscript army. But we can just offer support in exchange for become subject, become protectorate, and then we can just come over and, take a look, peruse the various armies we could raise, and we could just raise a couple of, Chinese armies, which are just 100 conscripts or what have you. Mobilize. Send them right over, like Red Rover. And that should be sufficient. I think we'll send an additional army or two. We see Spain side with Austria-Hungary. Really not a big deal here, because even then, they should be relatively uncertain. Yeah, minus 75 from relative strength of alliance. It's the civil war that they're never going to back down on, but we're about to get a free Austria-Hungary as our subject, which plays quite nicely because we also have Prussia as our subject, so that's pretty good. So we're getting all the German minors. So kind of right about as this big war starts, and it's starting to go, we get Mewar and Siam into the customs union using obligations. We're going to start working our way inward, or we're going to try and take a look at whoever we can try and get in as well. We're already working on Burma. I think Bengal might be a little bit too big for us. If I recall correctly, I think that they made it to GP, because Bengal is recognized for whatever reason, but they're down to major. So we could pull them into the customs union, so we'll start bankrolling them, because we pulled off the other bankrolls. We'll try and find a little bit of extra juice for being able to decay as much as possible, but we don't want to really rival Mexico. I guess we could rival Scandi. We don't want to rival these big guys because we still have so much useful stuff we can peel off of them, but I suppose we could rival Mexico here. We were hoping to maybe get an obligation, but honestly, we're probably, or not an obligation, some sort of sway, but if they revolt or something like this, then we could look to use the revolt to subjugate them, and so subjugate the revolt instead, using kind of the reverse sway, yo-yo sway. We have some fronts where they didn't assign and some fronts where they assigned, so it's looking like it's going to be a bit of a coin toss. We have an additional Chinese army kind of coming on in. This is going to be the third Chinese army that we have out of our third Chinese province, where we just have the units in the province plus 100 conscripts, and this is largely the ones who are going to be doing any sort of heavy lifting. I suppose we have the Washington, Oregon, Idaho et al. Army as well to do a little bit of work, and they are assigned right here, and so they're going to get pushing in. But yeah, we'll try and do some cheeky landings. Unfortunately, we manually demobilized several armies, so we're waiting for them to be eligible to get back up. Like, these guys need an additional 2 days. But once these guys start coming in, once these guys start coming in, days are still going a little bit slow. Once these guys are in, we are going to start using them for stuff like landings. Okay, they're not eligible yet, but we're going to use them for landings. We're going to look to land some of the weak spots on both the Ottoman Empire and Russia, just to try and get them out of the war a little bit faster and enforce on, or at least pull some of their armies off the other fronts so that we can have a bit of an easier go at Austria-Hungary. Or maybe we just land Austria-Hungary directly down here. That might be a little bit better. So the war's still going on, but we're hitting a bit of an inflection point. I think we want to try and increase SOL a little bit. Services does target the middle class. We kind of want to lower taxes, but the reason we don't really want to lower taxes, is because we're getting a bankroll from France, and this is just going to, it's like we're wringing out a towel that's already dry. And so we want to keep taxes maxed out, and so instead of raking back taxes, we're going to remove this consumption tax, and with this, we're going to get something very useful, which is that right now we're having issues in Mato Grosso with infrastructure because we can't deploy up. We're kind of in a little bit of a death spiral in Mato Grosso. Specifically, we are incorporating it. It's another 36 months, but we would like more people to come here so that, we have to delete the construction sectors here. This is part of the problem, but we really want these railways to expand, and so we are going to try and massage, guys into Mato Grosso, and being kind of vigilant for this sort of thing can be pretty useful ahead of time because if you get some sort of weird death spiral where you are in an infra deficit, and because of that you have no migration attraction because it's a really bad place to live, then there's not really that great a way to resolve that. So we're going to do that. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to delete all the construction sectors, c'est la vie, and hopefully between that and you know, the available employment here, we should be able to get this up and employed. We also deleted a couple of government administrations, and when that comes in, we are hoping that this you know, migration attraction, we're going to be waiting till the Monday to see what it looks like, but it's at 102 now. It's going to hit Monday, and now it's up to 146, and so hopefully that stems the bleeding from the exodus, or hopefully we even get people coming in. We have a bunch of unemployed. Once these people get employed up, then this number should be even higher, and so that should help us out. So now they are up to 182. Of course, they have had a couple of events. I think they had an oil event and maybe another rubber event. Still not fully employed on the railway, but they'll get there. We do have all kind of the PMs that we can, or except for that one, I suppose, on the rail transport to try and increase the price of transport. But we mainly just need bodies to kind of get these industries going. We did, of course, win the war, and now Austria is a subject. They're fighting San Marco. They should win. And so Austria is a subject, you know, Prussia's a subject. They're not a subject, but they're in the customs union. Ottoman Empire immediately turns around. We get a trade agreement. It's pretty nice. We get a trade agreement with Russia as well. They're wary, but we still overall have good relations. We've been cultivating good relations with the GPs throughout the entire run, which has allowed us to kind of do stuff in a way that's flexible. Great Britain's the only one that doesn't like us very much, but we do have a trade agreement with them, right? And so the trade agreement cannot be broken for an extended period of time. We also have an obligation, so they can't join against us anyways, and so that's pretty good. We're just looking to make some moves. We reduced autonomy in Confederation of the Equator. We're mainly looking to just kind of annex South America, and the other places we're less keen on annexing, and we mainly just want to siphon pops. Again, the goal of the run is to absolutely maximize and try and speed run half of a billion pops. Maybe if we can get 1 billion pops, we'll go for it. It's still pretty early in the game in terms of timeline, but it's not very early in the game in terms of lag. Anyways, we'll look to add some stuff to the queue. It's getting a little difficult to keep the queue going. We're looking mainly to take stuff, and right now what we're doing is we're just taking a look at stuff and we're saying, hey, look, we can 31 this will be great. We don't even have 51 as our current cap. I think that we have serious qualification problems in Beijing. We might have enough railroads, but not enough qualifications. No, okay, we're good. So we'll just increase the railroads, so this will be good. But yeah, we're taking looks at stuff. We're trying to see what's relatively profitable, and we're specifically trying to 31 industries at this point, because we're kind of turning that corner. But we just take a look here, we sort by earnings, we take a look and try and find which industries are going to be relatively good. We see that, for example, clothing is relatively good, furniture is relatively good. And then once we find something that the earnings is good on, we are just going to find spots where, you know, they have peasants, and we can 31, and this is how we are increasing our kind of businesses and trying to fill out the queue. So if we take a look at the food industries here, one of the reasons food industries kind of suck is not that their inputs and their output ratio is that bad, but every single one of their PMs, for the most part, just adds a whole ton of laborers. Like you see here, we have jars going on to canned meats or canned fish, adds 500 workers. It doesn't turn 500 laborers into machinists, it just adds more workers. And so you end up having a lot of workers in these buildings, and they're very pop inefficient. However, we have places with unemployment, and so specifically areas we would like to expand, these food industries are going to be areas where we have this striking huge unemployment, which is all these Chinese provinces we've seized. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start working these up to 31, and by working them up, we're just going to raw dog it. We're just going to build these up to 31 here. They'll be relatively good, and we will save kind of the places where we are running out of labor. We'll save them from accidentally queuing food industries by depressing the price and making it less profitable and less appealing to the auto queue. So this should help us out a little bit, as well as getting these people jobs so that they can grow pops, because very much we're trying to grow the pops as much as possible. This is also why we're trying to pull people in our customs union so that we can siphon off pops from them. Now, of course, they need to have the proper laws. In particular, we did pull in the Ottomans now, using an obligation that we've gotten from them from bankrolling them, and this is going to be really big because Ottomans are kind of the biggest power that has no migration controls. So we are expecting to see their population start to fall, and in fact, you could see, I think that's about when we came in, it's starting to fall already, so that's going to be pretty nice for us as they migrate over here alongside the big cars outside. Somehow Bavaria has formed the South German Federation, which is absolutely cursed. So they're well on their way to forming Germany. Their goal is, of course, to unify Germany from under the heel of the USA, I suppose. So one of the reasons we're eating a lot of inefficiency to build in the Amazon is because we're trying to push this journal entry for develop the Amazonian state. There's various, you basically just have to, the TLDR is you have to build up rubber plantations as much as possible, but it also requires urban center. The combination of wood and rubber is pretty good overall, especially it will give a lot of traction. If we come back to Mato Grosso, last time I think we did an update, they were at 180 attraction, which isn't nearly as attractive as that loud car outside, but now they're up to 230. Again, we're still using the greener grass, which is doing quite a lot, but available employment, one of the really good ways to kind of push this out is to push a bunch of chop chops, which is kind of what we're doing when we're trying to push to develop the Amazonian state, and we're going to choose the option that gives 50% migration attraction. So now in the Amazons, we're going to get 50% migration attraction. If we wait for the next tick, this 87% will go up quite a bit, up to 116, which is going to help us with the weekly migration attraction. I think we're incorporating it 17-year incorporation. That'll take a hot minute, but we are pushing, up these. Now, does this really do that much? Well, kind of, because it's helping us to get this available employment modifier, right? And there's unused arable land modifier, so it's helping us in that way as well. And the guys who are working there, they do benefit a little bit from the throughput. I think if we are anywhere near the infrastructure, which we're not, we would have just pushed up the railroads a little bit, but instead we're just going to do this, and this is just going to give us more available employment and look to pull in more pops. To be fair, we could use labor-saving PMs here, and it would be better for the efficiency here. And in fact, I think we might use them on the rail transport right here specifically, because the rubber's a little bit more important. But this, we're mainly just doing it to push the unused arable land, and also to push up the urban centers, because the urban center max level will help us to, kind of negate a lot of the penalties as we do develop the Amazonian state, because you see here what's giving infrastructure construction efficiency malices, and when we get to the better and better levels, let's see, I think Guyana, do we have a good one? We have a better one in Guyana. Yeah, so this is fully exploited, where it's only giving minus 10% infrastructure, minus 10% state construction efficiency, and a very nice plus 20% migration attraction. So we're trying to push it in that direction. Another thing we could also probably push in the Amazonas specifically is going to be two industries where we have a lot of stuff for, which is the tooling industry, because we have the rubber here, and of course, seeing as we have all of this logging, right, very much so the furniture industries. So we're going to put both of these on auto expand. We're not going to really expecting the auto expand to pick up very quickly, because it's going to require full employment, so these places won't fully employ, but it might, and between these 10 levels and these 2 levels, we might be able to get urban center level 5 for the next kind of level, or to try and push things along for develop the Amazonian state. We aren't super microing this, but we'll take a look every now and then and try and, kind of nudge some of the states along that we know are not getting the maximum modifier here, and we can just kind of cruise in and take a look. Like Santa Cruz, for example, we can develop a little bit more, or this is already developed. Let's see, what are we looking for? Exploited is what we're looking for. So Santa Cruz, for example, we can push a little bit more if we push the urban center level up, and so we'll kind of look to do that sort of thing as well. Again, I think we're just going to do a similar strategy here, and these are going to help to form a core of, provinces, as we fully incorporate all of these, that are going to be good for pulling off pops, because they are going to have the 20% migration attraction with the final level, like we have in Guyana, which is going to be pretty nice. We do have a ton of migration attraction. If we take a look, we haven't taken a look at this in some time as well. If we take a look at mass migration attraction, we should be just crushing the list, and we are. Wait, what? No, okay, that's. We didn't get the mass migration attraction. Sometimes this thing's a little finicky, and it has to do with, like, getting locked in on your thing, but let's see if we can do it again. Mass migration attraction, please. Nope, we're just, like, getting the weird thing. Okay, 1 second. Alright, so we save loaded in order to get the value, but we are 3 times the next biggest level here, and we are kind of winner-take-alling all the mass migrations here, which is exactly, of course, what we want to do. We want to keep the average up. We want to give more targets. We're currently getting mass migration over here. I think that's kind of courtesy of we are using some edicts for the mass migration attraction. If we take a look, we're not using one in here, I don't think, but if we hover over, it should show us migration attraction. Okay, it's not going to show us this, so let's go to decrees, and we can see we are using 3 greener grass campaigns. We're using one in Lima, because Lima has a relatively high amount of resources, doesn't have a ton of unused arable land, and so it kind of trying to kickstart Lima a little bit, and it's going to have a nice company there for the electricity. Mato Grosso, which, as we expressed earlier, we want to kind of get people there, and Transvaal, which, while it has a lot of resources, it can often run into kind of pop problems, and it has really good resources. One of the reasons it runs into pop problems is this malaria modifier, which extra mortality, which is a bit unfortunate, but okay. Just to kind of show off Lima real quick, it does have a very strong company. It does have iron and sulfur, and we are looking to kind of get it ready for getting that company going. I think we might slot the company in. I don't know what we get rid of. Maybe we get rid of the glass and furniture company, which has been pretty good for us overall, but I think we would rather have the electricity company that gets 5% construction, which is kind of what we'd be looking for next, especially we're researching rotary valve into electrical generation, at least at this juncture, because we kind of want to get onto this, and we are tech spreading some production. We're not tech spreading any mill. We do have ahead of everyone else, of course, trench works, and so we're in good shape. Again, mostly trying to diplo. We don't want to go really high infamy, then we'll lose everyone out of our customs union. And while we could, you know, go high infamy, fight Qing, and take like 5 provinces in order to get 100 million pop, not really in the spirit of the run, where we're mainly trying to use migration and kind of normal American states. I know we took the 3 Chinese ones, but in order to really siphon off kind of as many migrants as possible and really kind of showcase the migration. Again, if you look at this, these aren't like huge hitches. A lot of this is just like linear growth from migration attraction. We can take a look at the culture map mode again real quick as well. We'll see a couple Han enclaves here, and these are kind of the only places we've had Han. We spawn a cultural community there, and then really tons of pops dumped there. I think what we should have done is, ahead of time, as soon as we conquered our first Han province, we actually should have been pretty proactive about placing decrees for the greener grass, specifically where we want the Han cultural community to form, because this helps them form there. And we would not have selected, for example, Minnesota as an ideal place, but it's not a terrible place. We have iron and sulfur. Montana's pretty good, so us forming a cultural community there for Han's really not too bad. But I think South Carolina, in particular, doesn't have a lot of stuff going on. It's got like kind of nothing going on, and so that we formed a cultural community for Han here is maybe a little bit suboptimal. And so, but okay, we're going to be able to get people employed. Actually, don't even have that many peasants. And they have the Han? That's crazy. Okay, well, we'll calm down a little bit with the food industries then. So we are having a hard time employing up in China, which is kind of a normal thing. And one of the ways we like to handle this is just by absolutely blasting universities, because the reason we can't employ up is qualifications, or a combination of qualifications and the fact that we're just slapping down like level 31 buildings at the same time. And the reason Beijing is able to employ is, well, first, Beijing doesn't really have as many qualification issues because it's incorporated. We're incorporating both of these states, but also, in addition to that, Beijing has a level 51 university, and so despite the fact that we discriminate against a lot of these pops, not on the basis of culture, but on the basis of religion, we are getting about 1,000% extra qualifications, and so this helps out quite a bit. If we take a look at the population also, we will see that they're all Mahayana, and we are discriminating, actually we're discriminating against all of them. I would hope that we would be able to seed our religion here and start converting, but it doesn't look like this is the case. Do they have to be discriminated to convert the religion? I believe they do, and, oh, we have total separation anyways. Okay, so they're just not discriminated against. But these places are having trouble with qualifications, even though I guess they're not discriminated against. I thought we were on state religion for whatever reason, but it looks like we're just not discriminating against these guys, so that's, shout out to them. We're not, but we're still having qualification issues. So, we're going to push the universities up to level 21. We're not really trying to chase innovation. In fact, the tech spread's really not that useful to us, because we're only tech spreading one tech, and so we could actually delete down some universities, and it wouldn't be too big a deal. In fact, maybe we delete down from here. We hate to un-51 it, but we are mainly building for qualifications here, because what we are really trying to do is we're trying to get rid of this number, because the unemployed pops in particular have a diminished birth rate, I think, is the modifier. The way it overall affects is your population grows way less if they're unemployed, and so we're trying to get them employed, and we kind of by any means necessary kind of approach to this, and the main problem here is qualifications, so we're trying to solve that. We're going to take this opportunity to meddle in French affairs. Now, what we could do first before we do this is make sure that our Florida men army is as big as it possibly can be, and we could just, expand out the conscript levels as much as we can, and perhaps we should do this a little bit more, but I think the thing that we really want from the French, pretty independent of whatever it is that they're willing to give us, is going to be a bankroll, and they're already willing to give us a bankroll. I think we like this more than French Senegal. I don't think there's a particular state we would want over this, and the reason being is this will absolutely cripple them, and we're trying to bring them to the point where they, just like Austria, become some sort of minor power or, major power or this type of thing, and we can pull them into our market or something like this. This is their current prestige, is 171, and we can get them to the point where they are constant bankrupting, because the bankroll that they pay us is based on our income. They can't afford to bankroll us. They can't sit with us, if you will, and so we're just going to ask for bankroll here, and we will save them from this. Also would have wrecked them. It's not like they win this without us, but we will save them from themselves, and in doing so, we will, of course, indebt them to ourselves. I don't think we're going to need to raise too much more than this, but I suppose we could take a look at how big are these guys. Okay, these guys are fairly big. So what we'll do is we'll recruit over one Chinese army as well. We'll just raise all the conscripts, and they will be able to handle this pretty easy, and this bankroll is going to be enormous. It's going to be close to 1 million coming in, which is going to repeatedly bankrupt France. They probably rev again, and then we might be able to nab them much in the same way we nabbed Austria, and made them our subject, which will be pretty nice if we can get that done. So the UK has been mad at us for an extended period of time, and this is something that I think is a little subtle. Don't really talk about it too much, but maintaining good relations with GPs throughout the course of the game makes a lot of these kind of weird diplomatic type of maneuvers a lot easier, and so we're improving relations with Great Britain, even though it takes a ton of our influence, which is really going to hamper our, infamy decay. We are trying to do this low infamy. There's definitely a better way to do it high infamy, but we prefer playing low infamy, and so this is why we're doing it like this. And now we're at a point where the UK is in a play, and now maybe we can get something that is pretty spicy. Now, we're not very close to the bankroll. If we were extremely close to the bankroll, what we would do, or something else that's pretty spicy, what we would do is we would expand the Florida man army, because it can expand out quite a bit, we think, but instead what we're going to do is we are going to get a trade agreement with them, but we're going to go for an obligation instead of the actual trade agreement itself, because right now they're antagonistic. As soon as we join a play on their side, they should swap to genial or something like this, and they should accept, and so we're going to get this obligation, and we are going to wait for their attitude to change. It should change on the next Monday tick. If it doesn't change on the next Monday tick, what we could do is we could just absolve the obligation, but now they're cautious. Okay, well, not quite as good as we were hoping for, but we could absolve it. We have a very large volume of trade with them, is the main idea here, and so we were thinking that we would be able to get a trade agreement either way, and the reason we want a trade agreement in particular with them is that with a trade agreement, we'll see once the play starts if we can get something better, but with a trade agreement, we will get ticking positive relations. So we won't have to spend 300 authority maintaining this, because we will have ticking positive relations with the trade agreement. You'll notice we have a trade agreement with Russia. Okay, they're wary towards us, but we have a trade agreement. We have a trade agreement with France, and France is bankrolling us, which gives us even more ticking positive relations. I think the bankroll doesn't quite start until the war pops, but the war's popped. Okay, so we do have that, and then I think the next GP is not really much of a GP. It's let's take a look. I think Spain is a GP. Spain's actually ahead of France. Big yikes. But these guys we are rivaling. So we had to make some concessions to try and get this maximum float, and one of them was rivaling Spain, and it's a little bit too much to come back from. So, but what we are looking for in terms of opportunities is if Spain ever has a rev, we would look to side with the rev. We don't have a truce with Spain right now. I don't think we might have a truce with Spain, but if we didn't have a truce with Spain, we would be able to side against them maybe maybe enforce the Rev, and then buddy it with the Rev, looking to play nice throughout kind of the rest of the game. I think we're going to conclude the episode here today. We're really close to some interesting breakpoints. I think we are number 2 in GDP per capita on the world, which is not something that we normally take a look at it, but it is a metric that a lot of people care about. We're behind Van Diemen's Land, which has gold, and we're also number 2. We're number 1 in the world in terms of prestige, but we've been number 1 for a while. We're also barely behind Great Qing now in terms of population. We did steal some provinces off of them, but if you take a look, we're cranking up even more than we were before, and this is through pop growth. And so things are coming along quite nicely for us, really kind of turning a little bit of a corner, starting to develop South America. We are annexing this in Minas Gerais, and we're going to look to incorporate that, and this is going to be a nice base for migration attraction as well. In terms of, let's take a look at Goiás. Goiás is not going to be the very best, but Minas Gerais itself is going to be really good. It's going to have a ton of resources and a ton of arable land, and so it's really going to help to keep our average high while simultaneously trying to siphon off as many pops as possible. You see our SOL has also cranked up. We passed the 15 million mark. We're approaching as well. In addition to approaching the highest GDP per capita and the highest population, we're also approaching 1 billion GDP, and so things are looking pretty good, especially considering we're only halfway into the game. This is 1886, and so we're well on our way towards the 500 million population mark. And if we zoom out, we could take a look at kind of the pop heat map, both compared to Europe and us compared to Asia a little bit, or just take a look at Asia. And so this is kind of the state of affairs. We take a look at the customs union, which of course we have this enormous customs union, just kind of lying in wait for the most part, and trying to be opportunistic, and specifically trying to annex, South America more for theming reasons than necessarily because it's optimal. Although we'll probably annex Dynam at some point later on, because they do have quite a bit of arable land, quite a few pops, and very importantly, quite a good amount of good resources, and I think rubber will appear in some of these provinces, but anyways, and also opium, big nice. We wish we had more opium places. Surprised to see none of these guys have revved, really kind of hoping to subjugate some of these guys through revs, but that hasn't worked out for us. And we are also, I forgot to mention this, we are fiddling here and there, trying to get these guys to pass laws to try and move a lot of these guys towards opening their borders, like people like Japan, who is a subject of ours, for example, trying to just massage them in that direction, but it's not working out too well. These guys as well, and these guys as well. These guys have migration controls, but they discriminate against almost everyone here, and so moving them onto no migration controls, if we could ever get the trade unionists into power, this would be something we'd be interested in. We're siphoning off migrants from Persia, though. Persia's in the market. They have migration controls, so Persia, which normally kind of grows in pop, has stagnated, and now we're just siphoning off basically their marginal growth. We should be siphoning off, we're siphoning off the Ottomans, and so this is where a lot of our pop growth is coming from. Mass is coming from just regular kind of growth, and we of course have also expanded construction out quite a lot, and we need to keep construction going really hard in order to make sure that we are depeasanting these guys as quickly as we can, because this is how we are able to drive the migration, is by constantly depeasanting, and not only depeasanting, but we're going to start switching on more and more labor saving PMs, which will drive up the SOL and help to pull the migrants in even faster, even though we do have a really big mass migration attraction relative to the rest of the world. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode / revival of the run. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'm mainly doing this because a lot of the regulars seem to be interested in the continuation of the USA run, and it's basically just you guys watching it at this point. Mainly doing it for that reason. So if you could like, that'd be super cool. And other than that, have a good loud car outside.